Welcome, friends, it's the Movie Film Podcast. The Movie Film Podcast, enjoy the show. Zachy and Brian are talking about movies. Movie Film Podcast on the radio. Welcome to Movie Film. This is episode 136, brought to you by Mr. Boy Productions. My name is Zachy Hassan, and I am here with my best pal, Brian Hall.
Hey, what's going on, Zachy?
Well, Brian, it's been a while. Last time we talked was before Thanksgiving, and I think you're a little too thankful because it took you this long to get your ass in front of a microphone to get some podcasting on.
I know. It has been super busy, just in all arenas, and it's funny because I was feeling that little, pick up Bart mental telepathy thing Milhouse was getting, where I was like, reach out to Zachy, and you did it first this morning, and so I'm glad you did because here we are.
Yeah, I was getting to be like Tyrone Biggums from the Chappelle Show, where I'm like, y'all got any time to podcast? As I'm like scratching my neck, you know.
Yeah, I know.
It has been. I mean, the last time we talked was the night of the release of Justice League, and my gosh, in the 3 weeks since then, it feels like the sky has fallen. If you are Warner Brothers looking at the box office of that movie, so that's a conversation we will have in just a little bit. But before that, it has been Thanksgiving, and you've lived some life. Have you done anything exciting since the last time I talked to you?
Yeah. Well, I went and got to see my folks out for Thanksgiving, which we don't get out there too often, my brother and I, and that was a blast, and got to relax a little bit and keep him busy with work and whatnot. But I also found some time to watch some movies. Of course, Thanksgiving, I wasn't going to bring this up, but Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, got to give the shout out.
Of course.
A tradition there.
That's also a tradition in my household.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, I'll just say, it's mind-blowing to me that movie gets better every time I watch it, and I've probably seen it like 30 plus times. I mean, that's like a top, if it's not a top 5, it's right there for me. That's I don't know, it's a wonderful movie.
I've said before, I've said to you before where I'm always like, what happens the morning after?
I don't want to think about it, actually. Well, I mean, Steve Martin works in marketing, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he helps them get a business off the ground or something.
Okay. See, I was gonna be like, cut to newspaper headline: suburban family murdered in shocking. I went to a dark place because the movie ends. If you remember, it ends with just like John Candy kind of smiling, and it fades to black.
Yeah. I imagine it would be like it would fade up to Steve Martin's wife saying, "When is this man going to leave our home?"
That's like the sitcom version, and again the Neil Blomkamp version would be where it's just
right.
Or like, who's the guy? What's his name? Who did Hostel? What's his name? Eli Roth version.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like shocking murder-suicide in suburban home. It's like, oh, see, that was a mistake on Neil's part,
Yeah. Pleased to meet you, Neil Page. Well, I saw a movie that was made in this century. I saw I, Tonya.
So it's made this century about something that happened in the last century.
Yes, which is funny because us growing up, we watch all these movies about this. There were so many movies about the 60s.
Yes.
Remember this? And like the Vietnam War and hippies and whatnot. And now they're starting to make events, television and movies and whatnot around the things that we remember growing up. For, example, the OJ thing, the whole onslaught of OJ things that came up this year, which I watched all of. And anyway, with this one, it was the same year. You had this really weird, scandalous, tabloidy news event where leading up to the Olympics, there was ice skater Tonya Harding, who was not the America's girl, sort of image that figure skating wanted, but she, against all odds, really, she rose in the ranks, and she was able to do things that some female figure skaters had never been able to do up until that point. So she was a very, very capable skater, but she was always an underdog. And then you had, America's ice skating princess, Nancy Kerrigan, And then this whole thing happens where Nancy Kerrigan gets her knee whacked.
Yes.
Yeah, right before.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Is that in the movie?
It is. It is actually. And so then the whole thing is it comes out that people from Tonya Harding's camp were responsible for this.
They kneecapped her.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because I mean this is like I'm certain burned in both you and I's brains and people of our generation and whatnot. And I recently watched an ESPN 30 for 30 about it.
Okay.
Which was very good and got into it and really delved into Tonya Harding's side of things. And that's pretty much what this movie does. And it doesn't necessarily pick a side, but it does also say it has some sympathy for her, let's say. It is sort of told from her side of things. And I have to say, if I hadn't watched that ESPN documentary, I would have thought they were stretching the crazy a little bit for entertainment value. But they were not. Like she is a tragic figure, all the way from her mother, her abusive mother, to the abusive husband and his idiot friends and whatnot. And I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was. It reminded me a little bit of To Die For. You remember that?
Yeah. Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, a little bit. It walks up to the edge of that, but it doesn't go into sort of like rock and roll satire, whatever. But you can tell it's like dabbling in it a little bit at times. Like sometimes people will break the fourth wall and talk to camera and whatnot, which I wasn't crazy about actually. Because either they didn't do it enough or I'm not sure. But I think Margot Robbie is really, really good in this. And Allison Janney plays her mother, and I think she's the one that everyone's going to be talking about because her performance is super showy, and she gets to be this complete, jerk the entire movie and sort of relish in playing that person. But I was like, man, Margot Robbie, like she is solid, and there's some kind of fun to be had. There's also there's this sort of drama to be had, but I was really impressed that there was a couple moments that actually made me gasp just because the drama was so good and executed so well, and you became it wasn't surfacey. Like I really did become invested in some of these people, and I think there was two moments I actually said something out loud like whoa.
Now I gotta say, if you are Tonya Harding and Margot Robbie plays you, aren't you kind of winning? Like that's kind of winning because this is, let's be honest. That's an upgrade.
I'm not going to comment on that, but I think honestly, she pays her good tribute, and she does feel like a real complex person. And at one point, I don't know. There's things I'd kind of like to talk about, but I feel like these are nice moments to enjoy.
Yeah.
As you're watching the film. But
my strongest memories of the whole Nancy Kerrigan, Tonya Harding thing, which turned into like a glorified Mean Girls episode, by the time the media was done with it. But I just remember Tom Brokaw struggling to say Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
Tonya Harding and Richard Jewell and Jeff Goldblum. And I was like, man.
Honestly, that is a name from the 90s, like Buttafuoco, right? That you remember? But I had forgotten it until this. Well, I guess the documentary. But like here, I was like, oh, I haven't thought of that name in like 20 years.
I thought Tom Brokaw was going to pass out by the time he finished saying that name every night. Like you could see like his eyes were getting all puffy. Oxygen was getting cut off to his brain. That was Tom's struggle.
Yeah, but if you see it, I'd really love to hear what you think.
Yeah, I've got a screener, so it's in the old pile that I'm trying to get through. I do have a pile of screeners, so let me very quickly run through some of the stuff I've seen. While I got you here, Brian. I might as well talk about this. Seems like the place to do it.
Yeah, we have time.
Molly's Game. I just saw Molly's Game.
Yeah, I'm really curious about this one.
So this is written and directed by Aaron Sorkin, and it stars Jessica Chastain. So basically, multiple boners for me.
Yeah, right.
And
it's just like a mess of talent.
It really is.
Idris Elba, right?
Idris Elba is in it, and Michael Cera, and various others whose Oh, Kevin Costner is in it. Kevin Costner. So definitely a lot of familiar faces, and I did enjoy it. However, I didn't find it exceptional.
Okay. Okay.
So,
And in a dramatic front, in a character front,
it seems a little self-aware in that, there's a particular joy in listening to characters speak Sorkin dialogue.
Sure.
Right. I consider that one of life's pleasures. However, I think that there is a tendency for Sorkin dialogue to sort of fall in on itself a little bit and be a little too proud of itself,
Right. Right.
And I think Sorkin as a director lacks the ability to know where to cut away and what to leave in,
Mm-hmm.
And so it feels like Aaron Sorkin talking to Aaron Sorkin at times.
Right.
So, I mean, you've got these great dialogue scenes between Jessica Chastain and Idris Elba, and I will gladly watch them talk to each other, but it feels like they're speaking with the same voice at times, and that's distracting.
Yeah, okay. I remember watching a behind-the-scenes feature on The Social Network,
Sure,
where it was like a rehearsal with Jesse Eisenberg and someone else, and I think Sorkin was there and Fincher was there, and they had the script, and they were literally going through it line by line and discussing each line, and I was really impressed.
Yeah,
watching that, and it makes me think. You have David Fincher there who has a strong opinion and is a storyteller and whatnot, scrutinizing each line, but when you have Aaron Sorkin as the only gatekeeper, then you might not get some of the whatever you need.
A comparison I would make, and it's not a one-to-one comparison, but like some Kevin Smith movies, where you have that same sense where it's the same character talking to the same character.
Sure.
Because they're all sort of avatars of Kevin Smith.
Right.
And he directs his own scripts, right? So there's less of a tendency to really self-edit.
Mm-hmm. And he's the editor of his films too.
There you go. Right. So in this case, I think Sorkin's a talented director. This is his first time directing, so I certainly want to see him do more. The movie didn't blow my hair back in the way maybe I was hoping.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not to say it's not an enjoyable couple of hours.
All right.
It's kind of a caper movie in some ways.
Yeah, and based on a true story, right?
Based on a true story, which is really bananas. Yeah, it's about this woman who ran an illegal gambling, a poker setup in L.A. and also New York, and all these celebrities and famous people were involved. And it started as like a Vanity Fair article that became the movie, and she's written a book called Molly's Game, which serves as kind of the through line of the film. Jessica Chastain is one of these actors who, of the sort of recent up and comers, I feel she's so charismatic, and I'll gladly just sit and watch her because she's such a strong actor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's solid.
And she tends to make good choices. So in that sense, I mean, I don't want to sound too down on the movie. I think it's absolutely worthwhile. I just don't think it's one of the year's best.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
Next up,
they can all be home runs, right?
That's very true. So I'd call this a solid base hit.
Nice.
I also saw The Disaster Artist, and you might recall this is one I've been looking forward to for a while.
Oh man, this is for me too. This is a big one for me. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, honestly, one of my favorites of the year. I really enjoyed it, and it is directed by James Franco, and it stars James Franco as Tommy Wiseau, and it's the making of The Room, which is the worst movie ever made, some would say, right? And I just love the synchronicity of potentially Franco being nominated for an Oscar for playing Tommy Wiseau, which would presumably result in Tommy Wiseau being at the Oscars to watch the movie based on his movie win an Oscar. Right. I mean,
you cannot convince anyone who was on the set of the original Room that this is where it was all headed.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
But it was funny, which I kind of expected from the trailers and made it sound very funny. But I was surprised how sort of poignant it was. And it really paints a portrait of Tommy as this guy who you feel genuine kinship with, which I think is so fascinating. Like, it definitely pokes fun at his eccentricities. I mean, it doesn't whitewash that, but you know, the moments when he's being diminished or demeaned, you feel bad for him, which I think is a testament to the artistry that Franco created.
I'm really happy to hear that, because knowing that James Franco made it, it gives me slight pause, because it seems, and I like him generally, but it seems like some of his output has been like, I appreciate him as an artist, but it's this kind of loosey-goosey thing that doesn't find its footing. And I was a little worried. I knew what their ambitions were with this movie, but I was worried, is he the guy that's going to bring it home?
Yes.
Like I'm hoping he will. And you're saying that you believe he did.
I think, this is certainly the highest profile thing he's ever directed, right? I don't know. I mean, what's he directed before? I'm not sure.
Oh, he did like a Faulkner story adaptation.
Okay, so
yeah,
so a lot of artsy fartsy stuff.
Yeah.
I think that he distinguishes himself with this film as a director to watch, and I think, by the way, Dave Franco, who plays Greg Sestero, who is sort of our POV character, he's terrific in this. This is the best. I mean, I don't dislike Dave Franco, but this is the best performance I've seen from him.
Man, I'm so happy. I really am. This was like one of, besides Star Wars or whatnot, but in terms of sort of like the awardsy movies that are coming out right now, this is the one I was most looking forward to. So
yes, that I mean, it ended and I was like, yep, that's one of the best movies I've seen this year. I absolutely enjoyed it. So
man, it's so great too, because like we were saying, the story of it, where it's just about this guy who's completely, you cannot understand where he's coming from or whatnot, but he's like driven, and he's got this passion, and he makes things that people don't like or understand, but there's something about, like, there's so much potential in that story, and I'm so happy to hear that it was sort of realized.
And Brian, the other thing is that Tommy as a persona is so easy to caricature.
Right.
You could easily see James Franco coming off like he's a Saturday Night Live skit or something,
Right.
And he doesn't do that. I think he does make him feel like a real character. And I mentioned before that I listened to the audiobook of the Disaster Artist, and I think this does preserve the arc of the film and of the story, excuse me. And I there's some fun stuff in the credits too. I'll say that.
Okay. Okay, cool. I regret that I didn't get to the book.
Nick Fury invites Tommy to join the Avengers. That's the post-credit scene.
That's funny.
Sorry, what were you saying about the book?
Oh, no, I was just saying I regret that I didn't get to the book before the film.
Yeah, Brian. What the hell, man? Next up, I saw The Post, and this is the new Steven Spielberg film, which we talked about the trailer for, I think, in our last episode, if I'm not mistaken, or the episode before our last episode. And this comes out December 22nd in limited release, so they've shown it way in advance to critics, which tells you something.
Yeah.
And I know you were excited about it, and this is another one. I loved it.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah. Now this one is seems like it's a little bit more polarizing. I know just earlier today, as a matter of fact, I was talking to Tim Sika from the San Francisco Film Critics Circle, who is not quite as enamored of it as I am.
Okay.
But Tim's a heathen. What can I tell you? I'm joking. I'm joking, Tim. Of course, I'm joking. No, I don't know. It just worked for me. I mean, obviously, you and I are. I think it's fair to say we're sort of bought and paid for already when it comes to Spielberg movies.
Yes.
Right. And so I'm kind of like, well, I'm okay with, like, I know that, I admit it, and I rejoice in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of like, okay, it's a Steven Spielberg movie starring Tom Hanks about, crusading journalists. I'm like, check 3 boxes on like Zacky's bingo card,
Yeah.
And so, this is about the Pentagon Papers in 1970.
71?
I want to say 71. Yeah, that's right. Because that's right. Because Nixon was resigned in 73. So it's so much about the current moment. I mean, they start shooting in like March?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they made it in the current moment.
Yes. So in other words, you can't help but view this movie for what it is, which is Steven Spielberg looking at just the primal shit show that's happening in our government right now, and being like, I got something to say.
That's exciting.
Yes. Right.
To me.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it will be for most people. I mean, there were scenes in the film where, you've got like Meryl Streep like in the foreground and Tom Hanks in the background, and they're talking to each other, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I don't even need you to cut into this.
Right.
Because this is so compelling, watching these two actors, and as far as I know, they've never done a movie together, I think.
Yeah, not that I can think of.
I could be wrong, but it's certainly within my recollection. And the other thing that occurs to you is, like, we are watching these legends. Like, this is like watching, Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. Like, that's who they are for our era.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so there's just a joy in watching these masters of the craft just put this ripping yarn together that's about something, and Bob Odenkirk is great in it. David Cross is in it too. This is like the first Bob and Dave like reunion,
Yeah.
Bruce Greenwood, who I mentioned last time, he plays Bob McNamara. It's very, very funny actually, because Bruce Greenwood plays Bob McNamara in this, and he was President Kennedy in 13 Days. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, is he just working his way through the Kennedy administration? Like, we can see him as, Curtis LeMay in one more movie and Bobby Kennedy in another,
Mm-hmm.
But very solid. And I've seen it twice now, actually, because
wow.
I watched it in the theater, and then like the next day the screener arrived at my house. I'm like, okay, well, that's a trip to San Francisco I didn't need to make,
Yeah, right.
But my son, who's 11, he's like, oh, is that The Post? Because he saw the trailer and he knows it's a Steven Spielberg movie starring Tom Hanks. He's like, can we watch it? So we sat and watched The Post like the next day because my 11-year-old wanted to watch it.
When he asked that, you're like, truly you are my son.
I know.
That's amazing.
And this is like a weird parallel to make, but I'll say the ending reminded me of the ending of Rogue One.
Interesting.
And that's all I'll say, because I know you haven't seen it yet. So I'm curious. Okay. I'll just like plant that seed in your head, and I'm curious if that's a thought that you have.
Sure. Can I ask two technical questions?
No, you may not, because we're not
getting into spoilers or anything.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
How's it look?
How does it look?
Yeah. Oh, sometimes Kaminsky gets a little glowy for us.
It's you know what? It's not as Janoszy.
Okay.
It's not. It's. Let me put it this way. It's not as Janoszy enough that when it suddenly becomes Janoszy, you're like, oh, there he is.
Okay.
So that does. There is a moment where it does sort of become that. But I feel like maybe in narrative terms it makes sense a little bit, but it's relatively reserved.
Cool. And then I just want... Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, aesthetically it feels of a piece with, like, All the President's Men, for example, which is appropriate.
Sure. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And Williams, how's the score?
It's another solid John Williams score,
I just realized, as you had mentioned it at the very top of what you were saying, there's 2 Williams scores to pick up this month.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yeah. I wish I was that productive at 80 plus, right?
Yeah, seriously.
Jeez. All right, so that's some of the new stuff we've seen, and coming out this Friday is Darkest Hour, which is the new film directed by Joe Wright, starring Gary Oldman as Winston Churchill. This is actually the second of 2 Churchill movies this year, because there's a movie called Churchill starring Brian Cox that came out. It's kind of like remember Truman Capote had Double the Truman a couple years ago, where you had Toby Jones in Infamous, and then Capote starring. It was Philip Seymour Hoffman, right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of like that. I mentioned last time that I thought that Gary Oldman, certainly it feels like a performance that will likely net him an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a chance to talk to Joe Wright about making the film, and I think we had a great conversation. So let's go ahead and play that. So I'm watching the movie, and it occurs to me that I don't know very much about Winston Churchill. All I know is the image, the icon, and I'm watching. It was surreal watching Gary Oldman just become that image from the scratchy newsreels.
Yeah.
And I forgot that this is Gary Oldman.
Weirdly, I forgot it was Gary Oldman too when we were on set. utterly seamless, and we were very lucky to be able to get a guy called Kazuhiro out of retirement to do the makeup.
Yeah, he mentioned that yesterday. Yeah.
And so that was wonderful, and yeah, it was odd. Gary, took 3 or 4 hours in makeup every day, so he was already in makeup by the time everyone else started turning up, and he then took an hour to get out of makeup at the end of the day. So I was gone by that point.
Oh wow!
So I didn't see Gary as Gary for 3 months, and it became this character became when he wasn't actually, when he wasn't on camera. He doesn't stay in camera. I mean, he doesn't stay in character like some actors. So one was working with this funny actor who was kind of part Gary, part Winston Churchill, part kind of hilarious English raconteur. And it was extraordinary. He came to Christmas at dinner at my house during filming, not in makeup. And I didn't really recognise him. It was like having a stranger at the table.
So, I mean, it's at this point, it's just sort of conventional wisdom. Gary Oldman is one of our greatest living actors. And I feel like you need a performance like this to almost like remind you of just how amazing he is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I grew up in London without much means in the 80s and 90s, and avidly watching Gary's movies. Whenever there was an Oldman film coming out, it was the thing to see. All the way from Sid and Nancy through, there was a director called Alan Clark, great British director, died young, and he made a film called The Firm, in which Gary played a football hooligan. Try and look at Alan Clark's The Firm. But so I grew up kind of. He was the geezer, the don, the man, and also the other thing that he is that he's a great filmmaker in his own right. You know? I mean, I thought Nil by Mouth was one of the best films of the last 25 years. I loved that film. It was interesting in that respect to work with an actor who you respected, also as a filmmaker.
So, what is your collaboration like as you shape this characterization? Is how much did you feel like you needed to give him sort of room to create the characterization, or was it a collaboration where there was more give and take?
It was interesting. When before I started working with Gary, I imagined that I would just be creating a space for him to do his thing, and arranging things around him. But I was surprised and really, gratified to find that actually he, like a lot of great actors, really, wants collaboration, wants direction, wants that relationship. So it became very, very close, and certainly every detail was discussed, and part of sometimes it's good to know when to not try and interfere. Yeah. I think often directors feel like they need to give notes simply because to justify their position or their job, and so I think it's important to understand when to give an actor space and then when to just nudge this way or that way, or
So, I mean, talking of Churchill, this is
and also, so I in terms of the film, like I was interested in the character that was on the page rather than the icon, rather than the kind of historical portrait of a great leader. I was interested in this man. Whoever he was, he could have been fictitious, and so I really approached him almost like a fictitious character, and yet doing a lot of research at the time. And one of the things that interests me most about this character was the extreme crisis of confidence that he suffers.
Right.
And this idea that doubt
internally.
Yeah, internally. And the idea that the film is really about doubt, is about everyone else doubting him, and then he has a moment of profound doubt in himself.
Sure.
And that's something that I responded to on a personal level, and I tried to bring Gary to a point of such deep doubt. Because I think that doubt is a key factor in the attainment of wisdom, and we want our leaders to be wise, and so that felt very important, and also to turn something that is normally considered negative into something positive.
Doubt, in this case.
Yeah.
So you actually anticipated my question. I mean, in terms of the portrayal of Churchill, see, this is something that, again, as I mentioned at the start, I just know him as sort of the icon and those pictures of him with Roosevelt and whatnot. In England, in the UK, is your depiction of him, would this be considered controversial? In that, because I read a thing that he's the most admired Englishman as of like 10 years ago. So is this something where the idea of showing him having moments of feet of clay, as you would say, is that something that would be in the UK somewhat controversial?
Perhaps, I don't know. I mean, it's at the end of the film, Churchill wins. That's the bottom line.
Right.
But I wanted to take Churchill. Growing up in London, Churchill is this giant bronze sculpture standing on a plinth, surveying Parliament. Right.
Sure.
He's the British bulldog spirit, He's been co-opted by certain factions of the political spectrum to represent one view. He also has been co-opted by other aspects to represent other views. And what I wanted to do was to take him down from the plinth and meet him eye to eye and address him and have him... and try and understand the humanity of the man. I think one of the real dangers in our contemporary society is that we either canonize
Sure.
lionize people, or we demonize them.
Sure.
And in doing that, we separate them off from ourselves, right?
Yeah. And
therefore we can't learn from them. We can't see them as human. So in the negative sense, I remember when Bush called those the people who perpetrated those terrible crimes at Abu Ghraib, he called them. He said they have sickness in their souls. These people are evil, right? Thereby disclaiming all responsibility and allowing us to say, well, that's not me.
Right.
That's a monster.
That's them.
That's them.
Them, they, those.
Yeah. And it's the same with, lionizing or canonizing people, icons like Churchill, or even, Kim Kardashian,
Sure.
We place these people on such a pedestal that we then can't really learn anything from them because that's not me. I'm just a normal human being,
Interesting.
And so to take these people down and to approach them with humanity and understanding and love, and love is really important in this, I find, allows us to, and hopefully inspires us to do better ourselves, to try and emulate certain elements of his character and see other elements for what they were.
I think the thought that I had while watching is how we're all of us subject to a history that hasn't been written. And you look at history bore out Churchill's warnings about Hitler and later on about the Iron Curtain and whatnot. Neville Chamberlain didn't think he was wrong.
No.
And yet his name is synonymous forever with this weakness.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help but think about that.
I mean, the word appeasement,
right,
which we now consider to be a dirty word, they used the word appeasement as a positive idea. Right. That word has become, desperately tainted and probably correctly so. But it wasn't. The idea of seeking a negotiated peace for the purpose of saving lives is a really valid one,
right.
And that's what I was trying to get across, that everyone generally is trying to do the right thing,
as they see it,
and to give that sense of humanity to everyone, and I was also really interested in some of my favourite scenes in the movie are the debates in the cabinet war rooms, in the cabinet room, where I really wanted at points the audience to listen to Halifax and Chamberlain's point of view and say, that is right, I'm with them, I agree with them. And then to suddenly, hear Churchill's point of view and go, oh no, wait a minute,
that makes sense too.
That makes sense too, and that it's never that to have a kind of ambivalent response, and then hopefully, my greatest hope is that then people leave the theatre afterwards and keep having those conversations and keep engaging in a kind of debate or a dialogue about what the right action would have been then, and what the right action is now. I mean, there are wars, there are recent wars that I definitely would have been on the side of Chamberlain and Halifax.
Right.
There have been wars that I no way think justified the loss of life that ensued. But in this moment, in this context, Churchill was right.
Well,
because of the moral element to it.
Well, and I mean, to that point, we see a variation of this conversation having played out here in the United States over the last few months, where the notion of equivocating over Nazis.
Yeah.
And in the film, we see Churchill's like, look, we don't negotiate with fascism.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We see kind of the bizarro inversion of that.
Yeah,
right
absolutely.
Now.
And that I find weirdly makes this film topical, which I never set out to make a topical film. I mean, I've always wanted to make a topical film.
Sure.
I thought that would be, that would be cool to make a topical film. But when we began making this film, back in January 2016, there was no topicality to it at all. And
Brexit probably wasn't.
Brexit wasn't. No one thought Brexit was going to happen.
Wow.
And no one thought that Nazis would have been marching freely in the streets of
with tiki torches.
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely crazy what's happened, and also not just here, but in Marine Le Pen.
Oh,
in
sure,
France,
right,
and that horrific.
So this sort of
that horrific guy in Holland as well, whose name I've forgotten. But this rise of far right.
Geert Wilders.
That's the guy.
Yeah.
With that dreadful hair. Why do all Nazis have such bad hair?
It's like a cartoon character.
Yeah. But so I mean to be releasing a movie at a time when all of this is going on, to be releasing a movie that is about resisting bigotry, hate, Nazism, tooth and nail, feels important, But as I travel around America and Europe with this movie, what I see happening is a level of resistance that is unprecedented. And that I find really exciting and really optimistic. So I'm not, I don't think it's all doom and gloom.
I agree with you there. I thought I had earlier this summer when I watched Dunkirk was what I said in my review was I love how it's entirely the perspective of the people on the ground and the people at sea, and we get no sense of what's happening in the halls of Parliament and whatnot. And so I love the fact that this film is like this adjunct to. That couldn't have been something you intended, but is that something I'm assuming you've seen Dunkirk?
I have, yeah.
Was that something you thought of? Was how these two kind of just fit together?
Yeah, I mean, we'd started making the film, Darkest Hour, and then I heard that Nolan was doing Dunkirk, and also Dunkirk's. I have a special place in my heart for Dunkirk because of the scene in Atonement and all of that stuff.
Oh, right, yeah, that's right.
So, so I was a little bit nervous, and I thought, I wonder, if they'll have Churchill, and I was delighted to discover that they didn't, and then I was even more delighted when I did go and watch the movie, how absolutely brilliant it is, and so fantastic, It's an amazing piece of work, and so that feels great.
So yeah, Darkest Hour comes out in theaters later this week. So definitely by the time the majority of people are listening to this, it will be out there in the world for people to see. Brian, why don't we take a little break and then we can...
yeah. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Can I ask you one more thing that I think pertains more to the opening of our show sort of material?
Yeah.
I saw on Instagram today a picture of you and Kate Winslet.
Yes. Oh, yeah. How did I buried the lead. I buried the lead. How did I not talk about this? So earlier today, I was invited to a meet and greet with Kate Winslet, of all people, because she's in San Francisco promoting the new Woody Allen movie, Wonder Wheel.
Wait, can you explain exactly what that is then? Like a meet and greet? Because this isn't like a sit-down interview.
It's not a press day. It's just the star or the talent, they meet and greet like local critics and just kind of chat. So it's sort of they don't have to be on in the same way.
Right, because they're not being recorded.
Exactly, right. So I've mentioned before, in the past month I met Andrew Garfield and Holly Hunter, etc., Gary Oldman. So this is like that, and it's just funny because so over Thanksgiving on Black Friday I bought a 4K TV.
Oh, okay.
Right, and this is.
I want to hear about this too.
Yeah, so this is like I've been wanting a 4K TV for a while, and I've been like sort of pestering my wife gradually to convince her that our current TV, which is like a 1080p 42-inch, there's nothing wrong with the thing, but I've been trying to like gradually convince her that it's just a piece of shit. So look at how that looks. Look at that. I'm like 42 inches. Come on. What are we, animals?
Right.
Didn't we fight wars against this kind of thing? Right. And so Black Friday rolls around, and I go to BestBuy.com, and they had a 65-inch 4K TV at like a price that I was like, okay, I'm gonna pull the trigger on this, and then I'll apologize later. So. The TV shows up at the house like a week later, and my wife's just
unannounced.
Like, no, I had let her know, but that would be funny. She'd be like, "What did you do?"
Yeah.
But it's amazing, and she's kind of like, "What is this? Come on, give me a break." And then I'm like, "Watch this," and I put on Titanic in 4K, and she just like started weeping uncontrollably. I mean, it looks amazing,
That's awesome.
And that's not even like 4K Titanic. It's just like not ultra high def. It's like high definition bumped up, and it looks amazing. So I was just happened to be watching Titanic yesterday, and then today I meet Kate Winslet, and I'm like, hey, I was watching Titanic yesterday, totally random, and she's like, can you believe that movie's 20 years old? And she like was extremely gregarious about talking about Titanic, and I'm like, what was that like? What was it like making that movie? Because she's like, I spent 7 months making that movie. Can you believe that? Like she was, it's sort of part of the historical record what a miserable experience that was for her.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, when you think back on it, what do you think of? Do you think about the miserable time making it, or do you think about what it became? And she's like, well, I think of both. It's like it's all part of that experience. And then I asked her about Avatar, and I was like, you're working with Cameron again on Avatar. She's like, yeah, I'm in 2 and 3, which I guess constitutes some kind of news, maybe.
Yeah.
And here's something interesting. She said that I've never done the motion capture stuff before, so meaning she's going to be a Na'vi character or an alien character or something. So I guess that's a pseudo spoiler, right?
Yeah.
So a little piece of news.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, she's like, I mean, I know she's like a completely like iconic actress, just period.
Yes.
But I mean, especially for us, I think, like, you know, in our teen years, like Titanic was Titanic.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just sort of weird to me to even now, to even still connect her to that in some weird ways. Like Rose is Rose, if that makes
It's
sense.
true.
You know what I mean? And Kate Winslet has grown into her own thing, and she's done many, many awesome things. But it's just like I would have a little bit of a weird moment of disconnect, being like, I'm talking to the woman from that film.
Yeah, well, it got awkward at the end because I was like, by the way, I brought my pad and paper. And then they kind of led me away, and that was uncomfortable for everybody.
Yeah, she's just confused getting led away from you.
But here's something funny. So we finish up with Kate Winslet, and she leaves, and we're like, oh, cool. And then publicist to John Weaver, who's handling publicity for that, he's like, I was like, hey, John, I'll see you later. He's like, wait, don't go anywhere yet. And then he leaves, and he walks back in with Kumail Nanjiani and Emily Gordon.
What?
And he's like, here's a surprise. Like they're in town, and he's doing the publicity for that. He's like, yeah, they're here, so I thought you guys should meet them too. So I met them briefly too.
Wow, how cool! How was that?
Really cool. Yeah, that was very briefly, but I was like, man, I told him I was like the SNL monologue that he did, a couple months ago whenever he hosted. I was like, I was dying, and I told him that, as a brown person, just seeing somebody who looks like me hosting SNL, I mean, what a big deal that is, And so he was very gracious about that.
That's very cool. I really like him a lot. So
yeah.
It's
very fun. It's cool because I remember seeing him for the first time on Conan, like way before he blew up. Like this is like when Conan was hosting the Tonight Show, even.
Oh,
right. And so this is before Silicon Valley and all that stuff. And I was like, this guy's funny. So it's been cool to watch him really now. I mean, become a name.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like The Big Sick, I mean, is going to be, a big like award push.
It's going to get some kind of Oscar love, absolutely.
Yeah.
At least in terms of nominations, I think that's fairly certain. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, why don't we take a little break, Brian?
Sounds good.
And we're back. And hey, before we talk through some headlines, and we have a bunch because we've missed like. It feels like we've gone through some kind of time portal where like there's been 10 years worth of news in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That we somehow have to figure out. But before we do that, real quickly, there was a new review left for us on iTunes that I wanted to share as a listener letter. And this is from the Maximum Joseph, who says, I love this podcast. The episodes are consistently strong, and Brian, the commentary tracks are a really great listen.
That's always nice to hear.
It is. So with that in mind, I want to let everyone know that we have our Star Wars The Phantom Menace commentary coming up next week, just in time for you to listen through it before The Last Jedi comes out. So that's coming up. And I'm always hesitant to say we have a new commentary coming up because what tends to happen is I announce it, and then based on me announcing it, Brian's like, hey, I'm not going to do that. Because he gets like busy with like life and work. But this one I feel confident, Brian.
This is going to happen. I'm very much looking forward to this. I look forward to all of them, but I'm very much looking forward to talking about this.
It's going to be a fun one. I think it'll be fun. So
I'm going to tease a little bit. I don't hate this movie as much as everybody else.
Ooh.
So let's tease it there a little bit.
There we go. All right. And you can listen for that hopefully next week. Fingers crossed. Knock on wood, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Moving on, we do have one trailer to discuss, Brian, and I'm talking about Avengers Infinity War.
Yeah.
So this one dropped last week, and it is already the most viewed trailer in in YouTube history.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Let me punch up those numbers because they are.
I feel like it was a Fast and Furious movie, right? That was not so long ago had the highest number. Because I remember thinking it would always be like a Star Wars film or something, and then I think it was like Fast and Furious, and then maybe like Beauty and the Beast or something at one point, and then.
I mean, the number keeps going up. It says here, It had the previous record.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah,
and that was 197 million. within 24 hours. Avengers Infinity War has been, within 24 hours of its release, 230 million times across various platforms.
Wow.
That's a whole lot of trailer viewing.
Yeah.
So why don't we play some of the audio real quick, and then we can talk about it on the other side.
There was an idea to bring together a group of remarkable people.
To see if we could become something more.
So when they needed us, we could fight the battles
that they never could.
All right, Brian. Well, I've seen this trailer. I think 220 of those 230 million times. 220 million was me.
Yeah.
I've watched it a bunch. And by the way, it looks friggin' amazing on a 4K TV. But I digress.
I didn't even think about that.
Oh
Jeez.
my gosh, dude. It's amazing, I have to peel myself off the couch because the couch has become my new home.
I mean, going back to that, 42 inches to 65, I mean, that alone is dramatic.
Yeah, I don't
So
think
that's gotta-
I think I love this TV more than most of my children right now.
Or at least as much.
I think that's where I'm at right now. But so I people already know what I think of MCU movies, so I don't think there's anything I can say really. But I'm very curious what you think, because you are, you're a little bit more critical of these movies, I think, than I am.
I think I'm a little more casual or something. It's a casual enjoyment.
Okay, fair enough.
I'd say out of the however many it is, it's 18 or something.
Yeah.
There's probably two I just kind of didn't like.
Yeah.
But otherwise, they're all solid, enjoyable films. I don't get as high highs and low lows as I do with something like Star Wars, where I'm emotionally invested and it's been there my whole life, and I have very, very strong feelings towards the Star Wars films and whatnot. And these, and that's another thing too, I didn't necessarily grow up on these characters either, and I know a lot of people did. So they're sort of, frankly, I mean, they're as new to me as 2008.
Sure.
Really. I mean,
Right.
a lot of,
and I think that's, you speak for most people in that sense.
Yeah, so they were introduced to me when I was a little bit older, but every movie's been fun. Every movie is better than it has any right to be, or most of them at least.
Yeah.
And I always say this, but I don't cross off the dates on my calendar, but I do look forward to seeing each one.
Sure.
And I think that this one, actually, it's funny because then when I queued it up, I was sort of expecting to have certain, yes, these are the familiar feelings I tend to have with a Marvel trailer. Mm-hmm. But I have to admit, this one did feel epic.
It feels culminative, doesn't it?
It does. And it's just, I know all the characters now. We've been building up to this for years. And I was a little worried that in spite of all that, it would still, it's still a big villain who's got a thing with the world. We've seen this a couple times.
Yeah.
But
there is a sky beam from what I can see.
Yeah, right. But at the same time, this one did feel different to me, and it did feel like it had more weight, and the stakes felt higher, and I don't know how they did it, but they did. And I am looking forward to this, definitely.
I'll say whoever puts these trailers together is kind of a genius, because they find the exact kind of money shot moments to put in. I think when you have the Black Panther being get that man a shield, that's one of those yeah.
Yeah.
I defy anybody seeing that for the first time not to applaud either externally or internally at that.
But actually, that reminds me, I wanted to ask you, because you having been a fan of these comics your whole life, what were some fanboy lifelong culmination of knowledge details that you noticed were sprinkled throughout this trailer, things that you geeked out on a different level than I would have?
Seeing Thanos wielding the gauntlet, for one thing, the Infinity Gauntlet, that's huge. Little stuff really appealed to me. seeing Doctor Strange and Bruce Banner occupying the same stage. Like that's wow, you know. And then the very end where where we have Thor crossing paths with the Guardians of the Galaxy. I love how you kind of forget that the Guardians are part of this universe too, right? And so it's like, oh yeah, like I like that, you know. It also occurred to me that, you know, the question is like, who's going to live, who's going to die, and I think that's obviously you know, my kids come home and they're like, all the kids are wondering like, oh, you know, like Johnny says Doctor Strange is going to die, I think so and so, and I'm like, isn't this great? Like that's. Like, I love that kids are excited about stuff like that, you know?
That is cool because I have no insight or no window into that. That's cool.
I'm not spending a lot of time thinking about it because I'm kind of like, well, I'll just experience it when it happens, whatever, you know? But, you know, for 10 years, these movies have been a force, and they've done so much heavy lifting to make this universe important to the audience. And so by the end of the trailer, when, you know, we see the characters charging at the camera and then, you know, the Avengers logo comes up and we hear that blast of the Alan Silvestri theme, it occurred to me, I was like, that theme is, you know, that's a piece of music that people know. Like they know, oh, that's the Avengers theme. And I'm like, you know, people complain about like, oh, the movies don't really have musical identities and stuff, and I would disagree with some of that. But I mean, say what you want, the Avengers theme has become an iconic piece of music, and I think that's cool.
Yeah, because I mean, it just doesn't happen as often like it used to, for sure.
Yeah. So you know, I'm of a mind of like, you know, obviously this is just the teaser, and one presumes there's going to be at least one more, probably two more. I don't want to see anything else, you know, until the movie comes out. That's me, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say here, hey, folks, we're not going to talk about any of the other trailers. You know?
Yeah.
If you're okay with that, Brian.
I'm fine with that for sure. For sure.
So,
you know, it's funny, speaking to saying that some characters are going to die, I read that Vanity Fair article.
Yes.
And I actually got sad at the prospect of some of those people dying. I'm like, I don't want them to die.
Like, would you want Tony Stark to die? That would be, you know, like that would be hard. That would be hard to deal with. However, you got to admit, Robert Downey would love playing something like that, you know?
I realize that it has to happen for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am at a place where I don't want to see that happen to any of them.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine what this movie's going to be able to make everyone feel.
Yeah. It's you know, I remember saying maybe a year ago that Infinity War was the one I was least looking forward to because I just felt like it would be a lot of CGI and stuff. And so, I mean, this teaser, to its credit, disabused me of that notion. So that ain't nothing.
Yeah. And there's two of them?
You know, they've been kind of coy about it. Originally, it was like Avengers Infinity War 1 and then Avengers Infinity War 2. They've since couched that by saying we have Infinity War and then we have Avengers 4.
Okay, I see.
If I were to guess, I would say this movie ends in a cliffhanger.
I was going to say like a Back to the Future, and then a thing will come up at the end.
That's my guess because they filmed 3 and 4 together. Why would you do that unless it was one big story?
Right.
Moving on from there, we have kind of a motherload of headlines. So you want to just dive in here?
Let's do it.
So I guess at the top, because this has unfortunately become a recurring theme, who's been added to the list of serial sexual predators this week, Brian?
I don't actually recall, so we should probably turn to NBC News to just. Oh no, no,
Jeez.
We can't go there.
No. How about CBS
Lauer.
News? Oh wait.
Yeah.
So we've in the ranks of newsreaders, we've lost Charlie Rose and Matt Lauer, who both proved to be not just creepy pervert people, but incredibly creepy pervert people.
Charlie Rose, did you see that compilation video?
I didn't actually. What
I can't remember what site I was on, but they did like this compilation of just sort of these weird, creepy asides he says to people, and you're like, oh, like when you see them all stacked up together, you're like.
Now, I mean, Charlie Rose, as long as I've been around and aware of the news, I'm like, oh, he's like the kindly news guy who's like asks very smart questions. That's kind of my perception of Charlie Rose.
Yeah.
Turns out he's also the creepy old guy who likes to answer the door wearing an open robe.
Yeah.
with his
I
dog
don't know.
hanging out. And I've asked this before, but it's worth reiterating. Why would you, like, what makes you think that's a good idea, everyone?
I am continually baffled at the sort of repetitive details that you're hearing with a lot of these people.
Yeah.
Very weird and very sad and disappointing. But
yeah,
I mean, at least we're cleaning up a little bit.
in theory.
I mean, if there's going to be, in theory. I mean, I am sure this is a drop in the bucket, but let's make it drops.
Well, I mean, 1 week after Charlie Rose, Matt Lauer was suddenly fired. So NBC News got a complaint on like a Monday or like a Friday, and by Monday he was gone. Like, it happened that quickly.
Yeah, and apparently and I don't remember their names, but the two anchors who announced it, they had just learned about it.
Yeah, it was Hoda Kotb and Savannah Guthrie.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, they read the notice, the memo on air. Mm-hmm. And again, same drill. Like Matt Lauer, who is like America's best friend for 25 years.
Yeah, it's funny because I know everyone keeps saying that, and I can't. I struggle to remember what it was, but I feel like there was something with him that happened years ago.
Well, Ann Curry was the co-host.
That I remember that, yeah.
Not the Tonight Show, the Today Show.
Today Show.
And she got kind of kicked to the curb after less than a year, and most of the blame for that, like if you watch her farewell show, it's friggin' excruciating.
Right.
Because it was pretty clear that Matt Lauer was at least partly responsible for her getting shown the door. And her farewell, I mean, again, you can see it on YouTube. She's breaking up. She's like, this is my last show, and she's, her voice is cracking and everything else. And Matt Lauer is kind of like reaching to put his arm around her, and she like swats him away, like F you, Lauer.
Wow.
So there's a little bit of karmic balance here, but I mean, again, extra creepy. Like I read a thing about how he just like randomly shows somebody his junk, and then he gets pissed because the person doesn't doesn't act like he's in a porno movie, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, who does stuff? It's one of these things where, like, if power does this to people, we need to, there's a broader conversation that needs to be happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Just damaged people rising in the ranks and then being allowed to practice their damage.
Well, it's one of those things where you say, well, every guy has, like, the desire to pursue women or whatever. Okay, let's maybe take that as a given. What's an inhibitor? What's an inhibiting force for that? Morality, legality, and opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And so here you have these people who they've had the opportunity given, and that opportunity has allowed them to skirt the legality and thus look past the morality. And then here we go.
Is this a thing? It sounds like a.
Is it a thing? Meaning what?
Like, are you getting this these points from somewhere, or is this just something?
It's from my head. I'm just talking.
Wow, sounds like a lecture that I should be writing down or something.
You're like, this sounds too intelligent for you, Zachy.
No.
But that's my sense,
Yeah.
Because how else do you explain not just obviously these things, but I mean, like Matt Lauer was reading about how he got one of the women in his office a toy, an adult toy, let's say, and he's like, I want to use this on you. Like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you, man?
I don't know. I don't know how one gets to that place. Yeah. I really don't.
So shame on you, Matt Lauer.
Yeah.
Where in the world is Matt Lauer? Nowhere we want to be. Speaking of crazy situations that ended not where anyone expected, let's talk about the fallout from Justice League's box office.
Yeah. I mean, did you see this coming?
You know what? Did you
think this was going to be a surprise smash?
I didn't think it would be a surprise smash. I assumed it would do okay. Like, I had no reason to. So by way of context here, the predictions going into Justice League's opening weekend was something along the line, somewhere between 110 and 120 million dollars. And it was looking like it was going to be closer to 110, and it's like, well, that's not ideal. That's like around half of what the first Avengers opened to back in 2012. But it's like, well, it's kind of in the wheelhouse. Okay. And then it opens, and it doesn't perform on Thursday night. It doesn't perform on Friday. And the opening number keeps dropping. It went from 98 to 97 to 95 to, I think it ended up at 93 million for the 3-day weekend.
Oof. Wow.
Right? And now, granted, we live in a world where 93 million in 3 days is considered a disappointment.
Well, sure, yeah.
Which is a separate conversation about how screwed up budgets have gotten. But... I mean that's unacceptable. I mean, that's a catastrophe, right? And as it stands, it has made 198 million domestically. So in other words, it's taken 3 weeks, and it still hasn't matched the first Avengers 3-day weekend.
Well, and Avengers earned that opening.
How so?
Right? They put in the time and the legwork, and they consistently were putting out product that everybody enjoyed, and when it all added up to something, everybody showed up with fervor.
Yes.
Right? And DC has been sort of fractured and unsure of itself, and people have either fallen in love with it or they don't like it at all. So it doesn't surprise me that it wouldn't match an Avengers type number.
But did you see it opening this low?
No.
I mean,
and we liked it.
This is you and I both were kind of thumbs up, but I mean, the idea that it would be not just like I didn't see it being necessarily a super smash, but I didn't see it being a flop.
I think when you have a movie where you are not super excited about Batman or Superman, like you're showing, this is gonna sound like a slam. I don't know how to say this gracefully, but like. Everyone was probably most excited about Wonder Woman. Like, Wonder Woman is like the movie that they completely got correct, right? That everybody enjoyed. Well, I'll say that everybody enjoyed. Correct doesn't
sure.
But it's just like if you've got like a Justice League movie and people don't really care about Superman or Batman, like I guess it doesn't surprise me,
right?
Yeah,
I mean it feels like a delayed reaction to. Not just Batman vs. Superman, but also Suicide Squad.
How so?
Well, in that, I think both of those movies ended up doing well, but they didn't carry a lot of goodwill. They didn't generate.
Yes.
Right? Like, I think Man of Steel did okay, but I think most people, anecdotally at least, weren't crazy about it.
Right.
So then, okay, Warner Brothers has a choice. Do you do a straight Man of Steel sequel where you kind of course correct a little bit, or do you add value to it? And they're like, well, Batman is $1 billion property. Let's throw in Batman. That'll make $1 billion. Didn't happen, right? So in other words, the critics weren't there, the audience wasn't there. And then Suicide Squad opened because it had kind of a unique premise. That actually did okay, but I don't think it generated a lot of love.
Right.
And so now by the time you get to this, like Marvel, and I mean, obviously we're going to make the Marvel comparison. Marvel was riding from victory to victory by the time they got to the Avengers. And so it truly did feel like a culmination. And it's funny because I just yesterday I watched the first trailer for Avengers, the first full trailer for Avengers, and it's like, man, I remember what it was like to be like, oh my gosh, look, all these characters who I love, and they're all together now, you know?
Yeah.
And what Justice League was doing was the inverse, where it's like, we're going to put a bunch of characters in this, and you're going to love it so much, you're going to want to see them separate. Well, I mean, clearly that is a questionable strategy given how this movie has performed, which is, I mean, it's going to end up making less than Man of Steel did domestically.
Wow.
Now there's no way to spin that. You put every big gun in DC's stable in one movie and it's going to make less than the universe starter 4 years ago. That's not what they planned, obviously. Don't tell me. Like, there's no way to spin this, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and what it makes me feel is a bit awkward is your inkling is to like reboot in some way.
Yeah.
But then Wonder Woman is working.
Yes. And
you have an Aquaman movie coming up.
Yeah.
Right? So I mean, what a weird tangle.
It's a bizarre situation because honestly, I think that Zack Snyder will end up getting the lion's share of the blame for this, and I'm not sure it's entirely his fault. Right? I mean, I think I don't think this movie is entirely his fault. Let's put it that way. I mean, obviously we know what a Frankenstein monster of a thing it turned into. I think the mistake 4 years ago was handing Zack Snyder the keys to the kingdom.
Right.
And saying, hey, shape this entire world. I think Zack Snyder, I mean, God, you and I have talked about this ad nauseum, so I'm not going to get into it again. But I mean, he's a talented director. He just needed somebody to sort of set some guide rails for him. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And to me, this is one of those things where you're just like, how do you not realize this going in? How do you not realize that after Man of Steel, the reaction was polarizing enough that you needed to, why would you have him do the sequel and make it even Snyderier? Mm-hmm. Right? And that's, again, just to be clear, I'm not critiquing his vision or whatever. I'm just saying clearly that wasn't what you wanted, just based on the reaction to Man of Steel. Mm-hmm. It was a polarizing film. So why would you tell this guy, hey, more of that?
Right. Or double down on it.
Double down. So that's weird. And then number two, you then also sign him for Justice League, which starts shooting within a month of Batman vs. Superman coming out. Mm-hmm. Right? So at that point, once he was locked in to do Justice League, the cake was baked, because what are you supposed to do at that time? The date was already set to begin shooting. You're stuck.
Yeah.
And I was reading this article in the Wrap talking about how the studio knew they had a problem, but they didn't delay it because their bonuses would get kicked from this year to the next, and they wanted to get their bonuses this year.
I saw that.
I mean, what do you even say to something like that? The movie, they're like, oh, it's going to do well regardless. Mm-hmm. So who cares if it ends up being, sort of like a, again, this barely avoids being a total dumpster fire.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's easy to look at the Marvel stuff and be like, oh, let's just, let's do our Mad Libs version of this. Mm-hmm. But look at all the work they did. Look at it. It took them 4 years to work up to Avengers. It's taken them 10 years to work up to Infinity War. What drives me crazy is that I personally feel like with Justice League they've got the framework of something that I think is workable.
Yes.
Moving forward, but I don't know that there will be a moving forward. I can't imagine after this, first of all, that Ben Affleck will ever be Batman again.
Right.
I think he has 1 foot out the Batcave already.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna back up a dump truck of money to Gal Gadot's house. Mm-hmm. To make sure she's playing Wonder Woman for the next 10 years. I think Henry Cavill is probably done as Superman, which is a shame.
That's a shame.
I think that the notion of there being a cyborg movie is science fiction. I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I just don't know how you fix this weird patchwork. Do you... I don't know what you do. You have very few things that are working, but they're working exceptionally well.
Yes.
So how do you fix the chaos around it and try to make it still feel cohesive? And all eyes are on it, and people enjoy writing about it. I don't really know how you... I don't know what you do. I'm glad I'm not in their shoes.
Yeah. I mean, geez, there were... I think Warner Brothers offices in Burbank, the Monday after the opening weekend, would have been a fun place to be.
Yeah. Well, I'm just glad those guys got their bonuses, though. They earned them.
Yeah. Really. What a mess. What a mess. And it's been fascinating, too, that, people online are clamoring for the Snyder Cut of Justice League. Which, folks, listen up. Okay, there is no Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
It's I mean, it's going to sound like I'm talking down, but seriously, the last version of the movie that he showed them was unfinished, and it was based on his unfinished version several months before release that they brought in Joss Whedon. They were unhappy with that cut, which was unfinished. So then they brought in Whedon to do rewrites, and even at that point, Snyder was still going to supervise whatever the reshoots were. He left. So there is no Snyder Cut. There's not the alternate Snyder Cut sitting in a drawer somewhere. Whatever there is even less complete than the Superman 2 Richard Donner cut, which is not a good version of that movie. Mm-hmm. So, people are, you have the Snyderistas or whatever we want to call them, Or like, Snyder will save us. Just release the Snyder edit. And I'm like, Warner Brothers has already tossed $300 million down a pit with this movie. Do you honestly think they're going to spend $50 million more, whatever it takes to finish the Snyder version? Do you think they're going to throw more money at this movie?
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. At most, what you'll get is possibly an extended version that includes, some of the stuff that was obviously cut out that was in the trailers and stuff.
That'd be interesting.
It would be, but I honestly, I'm curious if there's enough tonal consistency to be able to incorporate any of that stuff back into the movie.
Probably not. And I've enjoyed seeing some of these articles though, where they show the comparisons from the final version with the trailer and just how aesthetically things changed.
It was interesting because I know that like opening weekend, Joss Whedon got into some trouble because he liked a tweet that was talking about what a shitty villain Steppenwolf is.
I know.
Did you see this?
Yeah.
So I think we know how he feels about that.
Yeah, I don't even know how I feel about him doing that, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I wonder if he did it by accident.
Or didn't think he would get noticed or called out about it.
Oops,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, even if they're going to add the footage back in, who's gonna do it? Like, I don't think Zack Snyder's going to touch this movie with the 10-meter cattle prod.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine Joss Whedon's in a hurry to do it. So who's going to do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Snyder's moved on to something, hasn't he? Some sort of like smaller pet project kind of thing.
Smaller, yeah. Kind of, I mean, and he deserves it. I mean, he's been through something that's just awful. I do feel like the death of his daughter was almost used as a convenient excuse to fire him.
Sure.
Because I think he was fired. I mean, let's be honest.
Right.
And I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I just think the timing was piss poor. Like, if you were going to fire him, you should have done it after Batman vs. Superman.
Have we seen a time when so many directors have been fired?
I know, crazy,
from these whole high-profile projects in the middle of production?
It's crazy. Well, speaking of directors getting fired, I mean, let's talk about Bryan Singer. So he's currently filming, or he was filming until like 2 weeks ago, Bohemian Rhapsody, which is a biography of Freddie Mercury starring Rami Malek from Mr. Robot.
Long gestating biography.
Yeah, it's been Bryan Singer's talked about this as a passion project, but he mysteriously disappeared from the set like after Thanksgiving break, and he just never came back.
Which apparently has a tendency to do, which I did not know, and I have been reading about.
So
he's done this on other movies,
which is really weird. Yeah, apparently before they started, so this is a Fox film, and he was warned by Fox, like, no monkey business, no shenanigans. And I'm like, how many times has he done this before, considering how many high-profile movies he's made for Fox? Right? And so they fired him, and there's like 2 weeks left of photography, so they have to figure out now how to finish this movie.
Yeah, and apparently in his absence, his DP had been helming it.
So, I mean, do you know anything about this? Like, what's the story here? What have you heard?
Not really. And I'll just, as a coverall, let's just say, allegedly.
Yes.
Okay? Everything I'm going to say, allegedly. I mean, with all this fallout, with all these, sexual misconduct things and whatnot, he is the name that everyone is anticipating will soon drop.
Right.
For a lot of misdeeds in the past that people have been whispering about for years and years. Ever since he's been directing.
Long before Harvey Weinstein.
Yes. So it would not be a big surprise should that happen anytime in the near future. So with all of this happening, people are sort of anticipating it, and he's in the middle of this high profile production, and so it was to, I guess, our surprise then that when his name popped up, Bryan Singer fired from this film, everyone's like, oh, it's for, and then ... Nope. Like, it's for these other weird, mysterious reasons where he's claiming that he has an ill family member and he hasn't been showing up. And there was also, I guess, clashes on set between him and Rami Malek.
Yeah.
Apparently over his not being present.
Yeah.
So just there's a lot of weirdness.
It really is.
And things that they are actually copping to, but then also things that people are wondering is bubbling under the surface as well.
So that's the deal with Bryan Singer, and I'm assuming we'll hear more about who's directing who's finishing Bohemian Rhapsody, and that's a weird situation. But like you said, that's a thing that's happening more and more lately.
Yeah.
Speaking of sort of last minute changes, I mean, did you see the new trailer for All the Money in the World?
Oh, I did. Yes.
Isn't that crazy? I just love that Ridley Scott, who just turned 80, by the way, is like, yeah, I'm just going to cut this guy out of my movie and reshoot every piece of footage he's in and then put out a new trailer just to show you I did it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. He's more productive at 80 than I think I have ever been in my life.
It's very impressive. I did you feel a slight sort of feeling anytime you saw him, like when you'd watch like a Saturday Night Live trailer where maybe they'd insert one of their characters into a real trailer right. Where you're like, I know this is new, or like this isn't a part of the thing. Like there's like this little twinge that I can't explain every time I saw him where I'm like, that happened like a week ago.
So funny. But that's our temporal current thought, right? And that's not going to be the case forever,
Yeah. And we're speaking of the Ridley Scott movie where Kevin Spacey was once playing, what's his name, Getty, and then they kicked him out. And
they kicked him out. And they've also finalized plans to remove him completely from House of Cards, where the final season will open with him being dead, apparently. And Robin Wright will now be the lead character on that show.
Oh, that's interesting. They're going to open with wow, that's a big. Yeah. Well, if for people who follow that show, I'm like, well, yeah, I could see how they could do that. I mean, they're in a spot story wise where they could do that.
Well, moving on, James Cameron is back in the news. He's talking up the many Avatar sequels that he has coming, and he's also been talking about the Terminator. So Brian, what's the word from JC, as I call him?
Well, we like to sort of talk about the Avatar sequels because it's
funny that there's so many of them.
Yeah, it's funny that there's so many of them. I think there's also a mixture of fascination, and I mean, we love James Cameron, and we want these things to work, but there's also a little bit of a, we're the gawkers watching Noah build the ark a little bit, and it's gonna rain, I'm telling you, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And we're like, Avatar 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, but I thought it was interesting when they've been interviewing him because he was actually doing some press for Titanic being re-released in theaters this past weekend.
Yeah.
But he did an interview, I guess, with Vanity Fair, and I found this quote interesting because I think with the 2, 3, 4, 5, there's obviously a little bit of hubris.
Yes.
Where you're making these very, very expensive movies, and to just trust that everyone is going to definitely show up for these things. We're sort of like, well, anyway, his quote for Vanity Fair says, "Let's face it. If Avatar 2 and 3 don't make enough money, there's not going to be a 4 and 5. They're fully encapsulated stories in and of themselves. It builds across the 5 films to a greater kind of meta-narrative, but they're fully formed films in their own right. Unlike, say, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, where you really just had to go, oh, shit, all right, well, I guess I better come back next year." and then he adds, I was thinking like, well, is he dissing Jackson? And then he just put, even though that all worked out and everybody did.
That's really funny.
But just to hear him even admit that, like, hey, if these 2 and 3 don't work, there's not going to be a 4 and 5. I thought that was sort of a little bit of a leap from the showman that he's been for these films so far.
And I will never be the guy to underestimate James Cameron.
Nope.
But I can't help but wonder, is there an audience for 4 more Avatar movies?
Don't know, but that's very smart. I mean, if they really are these encapsulated stories, like he says, then they could for the fans. Like, let's say not enough people show up to get to 5.
Yeah,
there's gonna be fans.
Yeah,
right. And so at least they will have these movies that aren't going to have some sort of crazy cliffhanger that'll never get resolved. Even though, let's face it, they're gonna make 5. Come on.
Well, I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see.
Truncated budget possibly, but I just. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I don't know either.
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, what could making more of these more likely is our next piece of news, which is that, and this is kind of out of the blue story, that Disney may potentially buy 20th Century Fox.
Yeah. Like, this is the whole gobble up the world. Like, Disney is gobbling up everything.
I mean, this story kind of feels like it just came out of nowhere because I never got the sense that Fox was on the block. Like, Fox is Fox.
Yes.
You know,
I didn't know that was a thing.
It's immutable. It's just part of the landscape, you know?
Yeah.
You know, there are 6 major studios. So if Disney were to buy Fox, it would basically be own 1/3 of you know, the majors.
Mm-hmm.
And this is fascinating because it was a story that kind of got some traction maybe a month ago, and then it kind of died out. But now it's looking like for $60 billion, Disney will acquire 20th Century Fox's movie studio and all of their production studios, like for television.
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, News Corp, the Rupert Murdoch, et cetera, they would still own Fox TV and you know, all the news. All the cable stations, so Fox Sports, Fox News, et cetera, right? But Fox's like production side would get acquired by Disney. So obviously, in nerd terms, what does this mean? It means that Disney buys all the Marvel characters that Fox has the rights to. Mm-hmm. Right, that's like in nerd speak. But the other thing is that, you know, like we were talking about with Avatar, right? Disney has been building Avatar Land.
Mm-hmm.
So doesn't it stand to reason that they would want to have Avatar be one of their assets?
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
You know,
I think it's not to as dramatic a degree, but do you ever notice when you watch CBS, NBC, ABC, each channel has its own look?
Yes.
Right. And whether it's light, I don't know how they pull that off, but they do. And with the studios, I mean, they're not as dramatic a difference, but I do feel like each studio does seem to have its own kind of personality as well.
Yeah.
And it's weird that this Fox personality, I mean, is there just going to be more of a Disney personality out there in the market now, or
yeah,
what does that even mean? I don't even know what that looks like.
You know, I mean, one thing is that Disney would own The Simpsons.
Yeah, is that right? Because then, what does that mean when they own television still?
They own
just cable stations?
No, I mean they would own Fox TV, but not Fox Productions. So in other words, like right now,
yeah,
Fox the network airs shows produced by 20th Television.
Right.
Disney would acquire 20th Television, so they would produce the shows that then Fox TV would license from, you know, the producers, right? Right now, it's like it's made by the studio and then sold to the network, so it's like vertical integration.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But this would mean all of the properties would be acquired by Disney. So let's look at Fox original properties, right? Like obviously we're talking about The Simpsons, but X-Files and, you know, Alien and Predator and all that stuff would be owned by Disney potentially.
Man, that's really crazy, because then it also makes me think of ABC, and obviously owned by Disney, and there's always this synergy.
Yeah,
right?
so part of the reason that that Disney cannot buy Fox TV is that they're not allowed to own 2 networks.
Right.
So that's why this would be the arrangement.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean, will it still be called Fox?
That's the thing. I don't know. You know?
Yeah. Are they gonna? Will it be like Fox WD? You know what I mean? Like,
right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, again, narrowing our scope, if we talk about like the Marvel properties, that's great if you're Marvel Studios, because you get access to these characters all over again, or not all over again, for the first time, you know, the Fantastic Four and the X-Men and everything else. I'm curious about stuff like The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Like what happens to The Simpsons? I mean, I'm sure Disney would love to have The Simpsons, but what does it do to The Simpsons? Do The Simpsons go off the air? How does that work, you know? Mm-hmm. Really weird.
Yeah.
Speaking of The Simpsons, so we'll know more about this deal in the weeks ahead, so I'm sure we'll have more to talk about. But there's this documentary, I don't know if you've seen it. It's called The Problem with Apu.
I only know this as a headline. I have not seen the movie.
So you know what's funny is I've been watching Simpsons episodes with my kids on and off lately, and a few months ago, I was watching. It was an Apu-centric episode. I want to say it's the one where he gets married, but I'm watching this, and I've seen it a million times, and I've been watching Simpsons since I was a kid, and I had this thought where I was like, if a character like Apu was introduced today, there's no way he could be portrayed this way. He's just like a walking stereotype. And that was just this thought that I had in my head. And then literally, no joke, no exaggeration, the next morning I wake up and the headline's like, watch the trailer for this new documentary, the problem with Apu. And I'm like, get out of here.
Oh, wow.
Like literally that's the timeline. This is like Saturday night and then Sunday morning. It was like that.
Yeah.
So this is a documentary made by a comedian. His name is Hari Kondabolu, and he's an Indian American, and he's talked about growing up in America with the portrayal, like where representation is Apu. Like that's the portrayal of Indians on television, and what that does, and how any brown kid growing up has heard at some point, "Thank you, come again," by people making and I have not seen the film, but I certainly find the subject matter compelling, at least as far as having a conversation about it. And the most recent thing is that people from, I want to say it's from TMZ, went to Hank Azaria and they asked him about this documentary, and he actually addressed it. So in other words, he's seen it. And Hank Azaria, of course, is the voice of Apu. He's been the voice of Apu since the show started, and he said it's given us a lot to think about. And you can see a scenario where they change Apu in some way. They get rid of the character, maybe. I mean, I'm not sure I want to see him. Like, I wouldn't. I like the character,
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I don't even know what to say about it, to be honest, because he was presented to me at a very young age, and I do think it's interesting over the years how they've rounded him out as an actual person and participant in the town and whatnot.
Yes.
But like I have not had to experience what many of those kids I imagine growing up had to experience, where it makes me sad, hearing that. So it's I don't know what you do, honestly, if you're the Simpsons. I mean,
it's weird because I can see both sides of this. I see this as a brown person and as a Simpsons fan, where I see the positives of Apu. I mean, I think that the show's certainly been around long enough and portrayed him long enough that he really is a fully rounded character. I think he's transcended the stereotype. And yet that stereotype is itself so pervasive, either because of The Simpsons or as extended by The Simpsons, which is, the heavily accented guy working at the convenience store. So I don't know,
Yeah. I'd be curious to see it.
Yeah, see what they do. I mean, Hank Azaria is like they're thinking about what to do, and I'm like, well, that's not nothing. I mean,
Yeah, I'd like to believe that's true. I mean, they seem like I haven't watched the show in years and years, but like it seems like they're the type of people that would want to think something like that through if it was presented to them, and
Yeah, absolutely.
they try to be like socially conscious.
One hopes.
Yeah.
Moving on, this is our last headline, and this is kind of, out of left field if I've ever seen. And this is now we're talking about the Star Trek franchise, right? And I think you and I both liked Star Trek Beyond quite a bit. You've said you've liked these new reboot movies. However, the last one didn't perform, and it was a real genuine question mark whether there would be a fourth one. And then out of nowhere, on Deadline, it breaks that Quentin Tarantino has an idea for a Star Trek movie, and so they're going to break that story. And if it works out, hey, he might direct the next Star Trek movie.
Yeah, produced by J.J. Abrams.
Produced by J.J. Abrams, which seems to imply that it would be set within the milieu of the Kelvin timeline. And I read that headline, I'm like, well, that is an unexpected development.
Yeah, it feels like an April Fool's Day headline.
You know what it feels like to me? It feels like one of those things where somebody's like, "Hey, can you clean the rain gutters?" And you'd be like, "Yeah, I'll do it." When Tarantino makes a Star Trek movie.
That's hilarious.
So now it's like, oh well, okay,
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say about this because we know less than nothing. They are breaking the story. Now, he said this a while ago. He said that he had an idea for a Star Trek movie, and, I'm going to try to get a meeting. And if you're Quentin Tarantino, if you want a meeting, you get a meeting.
Yeah.
And if you're Paramount, why would you not do this?
Yeah, I think there's some interesting details to it, though, right? Like, he's not necessarily writing it. They're putting together a writer's room, much like they did for the Transformers,
which worked out great. So hopefully,
but actually, that kind of makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, if particularly a movie that you hope that there's going to be several movies, it makes sense to have sort of like a little bit of a collective, right? And for him to go in and pitch the probably post-it notes of ideas that he has, and for them to sort of make sense of it and make sure it still feels on brand with what they've done, hopefully still with his voice in there somewhere, his accent, let's say.
Yeah.
Honestly, I am curious to see him make a tentpole franchise movie. I'm curious what that looks like.
And this is the thing, right? Because obviously as soon as this news breaks, all the jokes like, oh, you're going to have Sam Jackson be like, does Jean-Luc Picard look like a bitch? You know, like all the
right.
all the jokes. And I'm like, Tarantino, I don't know if you remember this, he directed an episode of CSI.
Yeah. Well, I remember when he did ER, actually.
And and he's so in other words, he's played in other people's playgrounds, right?
Yeah.
And it's almost like he likes the appeal for him is not, hey, I'm going to Tarantino this up. It's how can I bring my sensibility to this pre-existing universe?
Right.
And so to me, his let me be forthright about, I'm not in love with Tarantino like a lot of people are. I think he's a talented filmmaker, but I'm like hot and cold on most of his movies. Mm-hmm. So I'm not like, wow, this is going to be amazing. But I'm curious. I feel like he has an idea, and it's not to blow the whole thing up. It's, hey, I can do something within the framework here. Like I remember, like back before Daniel Craig, he had an idea for Casino Royale.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that. Yeah,
he wanted to do it with Pierce Brosnan, and for whatever reason, the producers decided not to do that. But he kind of planted the seed for them doing Casino Royale. That was his idea. Mm-hmm. But this news to me, it's like, well, if the alternative is no fourth Star Trek at all, then what the hell? Why not?
Yeah, I'm into it.
You and I have talked about before. Like, we like this universe. We like the characters. I certainly would like to see them continue on, and I think Tarantino knows what constitutes Star Trek. So I don't think it's going to be like, it's not going to be Django with Klingons or something. It's
I think it's going to be similar to, say, like Joss Whedon.
Yes.
Going in and out or whatever, and doing his whole thing on Justice League where it's like, oh, yeah, that was Whedon. You know what I mean?
Sure,
you can feel a little bit. And it's like, well, great, but it still feels like a, Batman and Superman.
Kind of like, how Tarantino did rewrites on Crimson Tide.
Yes, which I learned that much later after I was already a fan of that movie, but you rewatch it again and there's a lot of,
you can pick out the Quentin.
Like the conversation about the stallions and all that.
Yeah, and like the Silver Surfer,
Yeah.
Yeah, you can pick out the pieces of Quentin in that movie.
Yeah.
So from one Star franchise to another, we do have some Star Wars news, but before that, why don't we take a little break?
Let's do it.
Well, Brian, we're back, and based on the music I'm hearing and the fact that I said before the break what we were going to be talking about, I think we have some Star Wars news.
Yeah, and we are, 9 days away?
You're 9 days away. I'm like 5 days away. Yeah. Suck it. Suck it, normie.
Normie. Well, with Star Wars news, basically it's anticipation for the new movie coming out, and there's a lot of interviews happening with cast and Rian Johnson in particular. And I was thinking about this because it's not often you have the director so prominently featured in
That's true.
the press. They're really trying to make him a face associated with the franchise, which just, right? Do you feel that way?
Yes.
Yeah, and it makes sense because...
Well, J.J. Abrams was front and center, too, when it came to Force Awakens.
Which makes sense because he is a face. Like,
he's like a star.
Yeah, and it was also, people tend to like him, and there's a lot riding on that one, and it's like, J.J. Abrams made it, like...
Right.
And Anyway, but what we've been noticing over the past few months is that with the firings of certain directors and this and that and possible turmoil behind the scenes of some of these Star Wars movies, Lucasfilm seems to be in love with Rian Johnson.
They really, yeah, it's a bromance / romance.
Yeah, and what we talked about, I think, previously is that Rian Johnson and his producing partner Ram Bergman are going to be making their own trilogy, right?
Yes.
So there's an interview that Johnson gave where he was talking about that when they were wrapping up The Last Jedi, he was talking with top executives at Lucasfilm and Disney, and they all sort of mutually agreed that they didn't want it to end.
Right.
And which, I mean, like, we already knew this, but it's just further like, no, you hang up sort of behavior that we're like we're hearing about with these guys. And so Johnson was like, well, if that's the case, he said he's the one who brought up, I'd be interested in doing a new trilogy and told over 3 movies in the canvas of the Star Wars world, but he'd like to go someplace new, meet new folks, tell a new story. And they're like, let's do it. So people are speculating what's that all about. And we don't know, but we found out today that it's not going to involve the Old Republic, which I know a lot of Star Wars, what would you call them? Super hardcore fans. I barely know what the Old Republic is.
Yeah, right.
But I guess that's a pre-prequels time, right, of Jedi and Sith and epic sort of battles and whatnot.
Right.
But yeah.
It's like a video game that people seem to adore. I don't know, man. The expanded universe fanatics of the now defunct expanded universe, I find them somewhat exhausting.
Yeah.
You know,
but I don't know. It's just very interesting how in love with him that they are, and that he has the keys to the kingdom in many ways here with this. And I don't know. It'll be very interesting when we get our first. We know what it isn't. It'll be very interesting to learn what it is.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and I think this is the period I kind of love, where now we're like down to basically single-digit days until the new movie comes out. Mm-hmm. And it's something I've gotten used to now between Rogue One last year and then Force Awakens the year before, where it's just all the anticipation, and you sort of your inner child takes over a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, The one thing I was thinking about is that we're like 6 months away from Han Solo, the Han Solo spinoff movie, and there has not been hide nor hair, no footage, no nothing. And I'm like, you'd think they would have a trailer in front of this movie.
Do you think they will?
Like, you think they'll drop it as a surprise?
I think so. I don't know how. If you have a movie coming out in less than 6 months, how do you not?
Right.
Right? I mean, we haven't, like, a teaser trailer.
Nothing. Like, yeah. I mean, that is kind of nuts. And I mean, I'm assuming that, like, everything's hunky dory because Ron Howard, you know, he knows his job. Mm-hmm. But I'm kind of amazed that they haven't pushed the release date.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be one of those 7 days a week things.
Yeah, and you've lived through that kind of a nightmare with when you worked.
Now You See Me.
Now You See Me, right? So you could speak from a certain amount of experience with that.
Yeah, it's consuming. It's consuming, and that was for 2 months that I had to do that, and there were 2 months that were not back to back.
Okay.
I did hear, though, I remember when I was over there working on that movie, hearing about some horror movie. I think it was like a Paranormal Activity movie or something. But they were shooting, and they said I think it was like summer, and it was coming out, say, like October, Halloween time. And they were the whole time was going to be like 7 days a week.
Wow.
Putting that movie together. And I was like, I just can't process that. I mean, that is literally your life.
Wow.
But I can only imagine that that's what they would have to do on this Han Solo movie.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty. I mean, I'm honestly, I'm just as excited to see our first look at that.
Yeah, very much. So it'll be. I mean, that one's we haven't even. Have we seen an official picture of?
We have seen nothing. We have not seen what Alden Ehrenreich even looks like as Han Solo.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's amazing how. I mean, that would actually be really cool to get our very first look of anything about that movie just as a complete surprise right before, because you talk about being in the right frame of mind to just accept whatever they give you, right?
I was just gonna say that.
You know,
I can't think of a better time and grouping of people to throw that in front of.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also dropping. I mean, this is not Star Wars, but the Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom trailer is going to be dropping like 2 days from now, like 2 days after we record.
Yeah. They've been doing this kind of little, like 15-second.
Yeah, it's obnoxious, dude.
Teaser of a teaser
oh
drop.
Oh my god. They need to. This trend needs to die in a fire.
You know what I have noticed though? I've actually gleaned something from this, and I was going to ask you about it.
Yes.
Have you noticed that it seems like they have tinkered with Chris Pratt's character a little bit?
To be perfectly honest, I haven't watched any of the stuff that they've shown.
Okay, so in the last movie, excuse me, I'm just going to be honest. Let's peek behind the curtain. I just burped.
Okay.
So
classy.
I didn't have time to reach for my mute button. So in the last movie, he played this.
This is the moment in the show. This is the point in the show where Brian stops caring, folks. So if you're keeping track, there it is.
Yeah.
Past the 90-minute mark is where Brian stops caring.
In the last film, Chris Pratt's character, I don't remember his name.
Isn't that funny? What is his name?
Rick.
Like, I was thinking about that. I was like, what is his name?
Rick Sanders?
No, it's I truly don't remember his name.
It's like Bliff Ridgels. I don't know. But it's the point is, in the last film, he was not a comedic character, whereas Chris Pratt typically tends to play characters that lean toward
Owen Grady, by the way. Owen Grady.
I'm sorry, what is it?
Owen
Reddy? Grady.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where I was headed.
Yeah. You would have got there eventually.
Yeah.
You just ran out of runway.
Yeah. But in this one, he actually, the little bits that I've seen, he actually has that sort of Chris Pratt-y, wide-eyed, this is awesome.
Yeah, which, if I don't know if you remember, but that was a critique I had of Jurassic World, which is a movie that I still like, by the way. I know it, it's fallen in people's estimation, but that was my thing. I was like Chris Pratt, like they've taken away his like Han Solo-ness.
Mm-hmm.
And, he, like, I think what I said was he's never wrong.
Yes.
I think part of the appeal of a character like Indiana Jones is he thinks he's always on top of it, but he's always, like, it's always by the seat of his pants.
Yep.
And that was kind of missing. So you're saying that they seem to have amended that a little bit.
I feel like what I'm noticing in the little bit that I've seen, it does feel like they have tweaked his character from what he was in the last film. And I'll be curious to see when we see the full trailer if that's a little more apparent.
Yeah. So, I mean, I wonder if that's a reflection of Chris Pratt's station in Hollywood.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because you have to imagine that his instinct is to go for, a laugh line or whatever. And he, I would imagine when he was making Jurassic World, which was, Guardians of the Galaxy hadn't even come out yet at that point. He didn't have the cachet.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't have the cachet to be able to be like, hey, I think I should do it like this.
Yeah. And I'm not opposed to him playing a more serious character, but I remember in that particular instance it feeling like he had a hand tied behind his back or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I'm curious. We'll see.
So we got The Last Jedi coming up, and we got the trailer for Jurassic World 2 on that, and we hope the trailer for the Han Solo movie, which is called Solo, a Star Wars story, by the way. We're hoping that'll be in front of that too.
Yeah, and man, next time we'll be back, we'll be talking Last Jedi.
Well, we'll be back in the next few days talking about The Phantom Menace with our...
Oh, that's true. They'll go all the commentary track for sure.
Yeah, so this is going to be our 4th Star Wars commentary. I'm very excited as we enter the prequel era, so that's something to look forward to. And then, our next regular episode will be following our regular tradition of the full time devoted to the new Star Wars movie. And I'm, if you listen to the show, you know how much we are excited about that. So that's coming up. That's coming up very soon. As we wrap things up here, Brian, is there anything you want to let the audience know about?
Yeah, I'm currently working on a show called Puppy Dog Pals, which airs on Disney and Disney Junior, and I think it's a really fun show. And if you have young kids or you love puppy dogs getting in adventures around the world, I think you're going to dig it.
There we go. Well, as for me, you can find me at my website, Zaki'sCorner.com. That's ZAKIS Corner. That's also my Twitter and my Instagram. You can also find me at the Huffington Post, where my movie reviews go up regularly, as does this show, as does the Nostalgia Theater show. Look for my episode about the behind the scenes of the X-Men animated series coming up in just a few short days. That's going to be fun. And as I say each and every episode, please do go to iTunes and leave a review, leave a star rating. Every little bit helps. If you want to reach out to us, hit like on our Facebook page, facebook.com/moviefilmpodcast. You can also email us, moviefilmpodcast@gmail.com. On behalf of my partner, my name is Zaki Hassan. This has been Movie Film 136. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll catch you next time. Welcome, friends. It's the Movie Film Podcast. Movie Film Podcast. Enjoy the show. Zaki and Brian.